We are now on to our opening, well, let's say a fantastic presentation coming up from Xanthe Bennett, who's Head of Business and Data Solutions for Expleo Group. Expleo Group are a senior innovation partner for future energy systems. We're very proud of that. And she will be talking about energy retailers, specifically the challenge of adoption of new systems for energy retailers. I'm very excited about this, and over to you, Xanthe.
Hi, Adam. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for your time today. As Adam said, my name's Xanthe Bennett, and I head up our business and data solutions for Expleo Technology UK. Part of my role, I have the absolute privilege, to be honest, of interacting with all sorts of different sectors and industries on how they can tackle their challenges around operating models, how they create their business models, and how that's supported through technology, through changes in technology, and through looking ahead to what the future of technology might be for how their businesses operate, how they support their employees, and how they support their customers. Now, as we know, the energy industry has seen some significant challenges, not just over the last few years, but in its history. With each generation that comes along, we see a shift in what it needs and how we demand and supply and manage our energy across the nation. From changes in what the demand is to how we supply energy from different sources through to how it's regulated, and now into the modern day of exactly where we're going with it in terms of meeting price structures, moving to a demand-driven service-based organisation. And what I'd like to talk to today is a huge shift that started some time ago in the retail energy market with regards to a recognition that legacy systems in technology and legacy business processes are not necessarily fit for purpose with the challenges, but also the opportunities that are being presented across the retail market. So it's a bit of a scene set where we are today. If we cast our minds back to 2012, there were around 9 energy suppliers looking at electricity and gas across the retail market. Legacy organisations that the consumer market sort of had limited choice between. Within 5 short years, we were up to 73 licensed suppliers, a true boom in options for the consumer market into where they put their money, where they invested their time as well as their cash in how they supplied energy to their homes and to their small businesses. Some of those suppliers have come and gone. Some of their business models weren't necessarily sustainable, focusing primarily on price. But the impact that they left behind in how we organise ourselves as an industry and how we recognise the need to both future-proof and meet current challenges has really shaped where we're going as an industry and what the response has been through technology. Replatforming or adjusting platforms has been a response looking directly at meeting regulation, adapting to price challenges, but really primarily focusing on becoming energy as a service. And what we mean by energy as a service is not dominating that there is an asset available and the consumer base has a limited option on how to subscribe to that offer, but looking at all the different interactions that make up a service, becoming customer centric and focusing on the need for high performance, for responsiveness to customers, and for recognizing that consumer trust is very, very key to keeping consumers and individuals on board with the business model. With a shift in customer focus, driven, as I said, by regulation and by price shifts, there is a recognition that the systems in place are not responsive enough to be able to adapt to that. We have seen with the advancement of technology across electric vehicles and how homes are heated and supplied with energy from various heat pumps and new sources, that the need to be able to monitor the usage of that energy, to bill it effectively, but also to have a higher level of interaction with customers as they start to use more bespoke products or more non-standard products rises significantly. A lot of the systems that are across our energy suppliers in the UK particularly were built some time ago, around the 90s. They are old in terms of their code. They are difficult to maintain. They are not very agile or flexible. They have huge cost bases. And crucially, they cannot be easily adapted to meet the demands of individual tariffs, new technologies, and new ways of adapting to data analytics and to how we adjust to demands across the energy market. So Expleo have been working very hard with Utility Week and a number of selected energy suppliers on what their journey has been and how we can take insights from that and share it with the rest of the industry and advise on where we go forward. Our report is available for download in the booth and also via our various websites and LinkedIn. So please feel free to take advantage of that and go into it to more detail. Just to go through some of the key findings. As we said, the need for replatforming is driven primarily by tightening costs in the energy market, but also a recognition to respond to changes in demand and changes in technology. The traditional platforms that are there are not able to cope. They're not currently fit for purpose. And crucially, they cannot be future-proofed to deal with what is coming next. The things that are coming next, not just in terms of how technology is advancing in our individual homes with electric vehicles, but also moving towards responding to the customer need for data analytics. The previous panel touched quite rightly on the need for awareness of data privacy and how consumers want to know how their data is being handled and what is being done with it. And if you can tell when I'm watching my TV or when I'm boiling my kettle or even when I'm inside or outside of my home, then how do I know that my data is safe? And a level of data literacy and how we deal with that is obviously key. But looking forward, we have a whole generation of digital natives coming online and operating in their own homes. And with that comes a demand for not just knowing that their data is safe, but knowing that it's being used to drive things effectively. Where is my energy coming from? Is it sustainable? Is it ethical? How am I being charged for it? What are you doing with the usage of it? What are you understanding of my usage of it? And how am I taking advantage of that? Is my tariff adjusting that if I'm using energy at an off-peak time that I'm receiving a lower price? If I'm choosing to use an electric vehicle, and am I getting some kind of credit back for that? If I'm selling energy back to the grid, how is that being reflected across my tariff? And that demand, that insight, and that demonstration of using data analytics in a positive way will only continue to grow. So in terms of how the energy industry, the retail energy industry is responding to that, change is painful, change is difficult, and change is expensive. And it doesn't come about by chance. We have seen, and we touch on in the report, that a lot of suppliers, a lot of parts of the industry are reluctant to replatforming until it's really at a crucial point where they cannot stay operational or they cannot stay financially viable without making a large investment and a large change. So at the point that an organization understands the need to replatform, where does it go? There is understandably a large fear and a legacy of IT projects going wrong, overspend, over budget. My background is the financial service industry, and we used to often talk about the 9 o'clock news test. What do you not want to be the big headline when it comes on the news to say this part of the industry has failed, data has been leaked, bills have gone wrong, complaints are sky high. A lot of people today will remember NPower and the drive to customer excellence through a replatforming of the billing system, which through a number of different failures led to, I think it was 500,000 bills not being sent out, a record 2 million complaints, and reports from regulators and sanctions on that and how they operated. And that's still fresh in the minds of a lot of parts of the industry, and how do we avoid that? But by looking at it holistically and looking at how a business addresses not just its technology platform and a need to address change, but bringing in parts of the operating model and bringing in parts of staff learning, learning and development, literacy and training to make a holistic change is really, really key to success. Some of the case studies that we touch on in the report with Utility Week look at how organisations have taken different approaches. OVO and Octopus Energy looked internally and said, we need to change our operating model. We need to respond with a custom built solution, and have successfully brought solutions to themselves and to the wider market that really bespoke exactly how their business works and what the needs of their business are for now and for the future. But that doesn't suit everybody. So if you're looking to an external market supplier, how do you know what good looks like? Coming back to the operating model for your business, what is the demand that is on your customer base? How do you understand that expects to grow? what is pushing regulation, what is pushing technology. There's a lot of information to take on there. And one of the ways that that can be tackled is looking to external industries and looking to best practice. In our report, we refer to Netflix, a highly successful service-based industry that looks at what it does well and what it can outsource. And that's one of the key moves within replatforming, is not just one single source solution, going to one supplier, keeping the operating model as is and trying to fix it with just technology. It's more complex than that, and there needs to be a level of agility with that. And agility being key to saying, what are you doing at the moment as a business that needs to change? How does your IT system support that? It's not necessarily a one size fits all, looking at modular solutions that can address different parts of the business, and perhaps even looking at how the business is organized, splitting out retail, domestic customers from small businesses and other parts of the organization, and looking at what is the different systems that satisfy different needs, but crucially, how a business architecture and a process architecture still brings them together in a holistic way. Recognizing that the customer is key, that the supporting operating model and the business processes and the business architecture is important to success. But the final part of that is understanding the talent base that you have within your own organization and not leaving that behind, with the focus being on two other areas. Change management, again, is difficult and it's painful. But if you take employees along on the journey and understand what your current capability is, what the skills gaps are, but also what the ideas are, taking advantage of innovation within your own staff base, your customer operatives at from a retail energy point of view, are the coal face of the organization, the daily interaction with customers, the empathy and the understanding of what the pain points are with regards to billing, with regards to service performance, with regards to expectation on what those services should be or could be in the future. By tapping into the insights into your employee base and looking at what they see on a daily basis, you're not only taking advantage of information that is not normally available to you, but you're understanding how it's articulated, what the empathy levels are, and also what the skills base are, and the literacy of understanding how to respond to that need. Bringing that back into IT solutions selection and understanding that different parts of the organization, from customer engagement through billing, through energy monitoring, through product development, potentially different parts of the solution is quite key, and those insights will drive forward. So in conclusion, we know that replatforming is a big drive across the retail industry, and it's not necessarily one that was wanted, but it's needing to be responded to for challenges across cost, across operating models, and across meeting regulation and future demand. That organizations are often fearful of large IT change, and historic issues in the industry and learnt lessons mean that there is a fear there, and that responding at the last minute is common. But by recognizing lessons learnt from previous engagements from other parts of different sectors and how they take a best practice approach, and also looking at holistically the operating model for the business, the staff base and the need for skills, literacy and engagement in that level, and selecting different points of solutions and technology and mapping that to potentially business model change, can really bring together a huge, huge benefit in terms of future-proofing a business, ensuring regulatory compliance, satisfying a customer base, and maintaining a strong employee base that keeps knowledge, that keeps innovation, and keeps morale high within an organization, which is ultimately reflected back in the customer base. When you're working with an organization, when you're interacting with an organization that you can tell is not just working hard, but satisfying its employees, it shows, and the benefits continue to move on. As I said, our report with a lot more detail in it, and some of the case studies that we touch on with some of the suppliers that have been through this journey and their lessons learned, is available in our booth for download, and further information available via our LinkedIn and our websites.
Really well articulated, Xanthe. I think what was I wouldn't say amusing, but when you said that change is painful, difficult, expensive, it probably everyone probably resonates with that. I think it's really good that you also mention, because I think we have your colleague Ivan Eriksson on that panel on people and process, which is a massive part of obviously the whole energy sort of development of these utilities and interacting with systems and how companies adapt to that as well. Let me just ask you a couple of questions, because obviously you're
Sure.
head of business, you're head of data. It's a really significant part of the energy market. What opportunities will come from or will come with replatforming?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we said, sort of replatforming is not just about the technology, it touches all parts of the business, and it brings
Mm,
opportunities to bring in use cases and to bring in ideas that haven't previously been tackled. When we talk about data, more interaction with customers across more products, across more services, and more touch points brings more opportunity to bring in information and to have insight into that information. But without a clear structure, without an ability to understand how you consistently capture data so that you get a good spread of understanding what it's telling you, how you govern it and how you understand how it's owned so that quality can be maintained. Because, like many
mm,
things, if quality isn't there, then it's all pointless. Is the data complete? Is it accurate? Is it there on time? Is it there when you need it for the insights that
mm,
you need in a timely fashion? But also, who is responsible for maintaining that going forward to a sustainable source? When we talk about replatforming, there are technology insights, as in there is a higher level of interaction across digital products with customers. So
mm,
you have apps, you have ability to take in insights, and you have an ability to take in things such as smart metering information, and then building that back into your future proofing. So you're saying, what are our processes in the organization? How can we take advantage of that with more touch points for data? What are we doing
mm,
with that data to take insights? But crucially, how are we building that back into our employee base, back into our business model, and back into our customer base to say, we've recognized what's happening and we're going to do this to adjust your pricing, or to adjust your tariff, or to adjust the incentives that you have to use energy at different times of day. And I think
mm.
replatforming opens up an absolute plethora of opportunities to do that. I think it's a really exciting time for data management.
It is exciting, yeah, because we were talking. I mentioned earlier with Alejandro about how yesterday, I think it was, I don't know which who the lady was it a lady or a guy, one of the panels, and they were talking about the energy management systems, how we're all going to become our own bosses when it comes to managing energy. So
Exactly.
clearly the role of data is huge. Um, what do you see the benefit of data sharing? Because obviously, when you data share with the whole future energy ecosystem, what's the benefit of that? Obviously, to governing data, because you look at other industries. Obviously, you sort of come from a financial background, so you look at fintech, you look at the healthcare industry, and how they've pioneered that area. What is a
Mm.
benefit for the energy side to do the same?
Yeah, so I think the benefit to an open data or a data sharing culture is, it's not to be dramatic, but it's quite endless. When we look at other industries, Expleo have actually worked with the automotive industry on predictive analytics. By
Mm,
capturing data that's happening in systems, that's happening across products, and understanding how that repeats and what trends are coming up, you can start to get to a point where you can predict where problems are going to happen. And that's in
mm.
physical infrastructure, that's in software, that's in services, that's even in your customer base. You can start to predict where engagement will fall off, or
Mm,
where they will start to look for different things, not just pricing. Because I think, as we touched on the previous panel, pricing is important, but there's lots of other things that go into it. But that can't happen in silos. If we have different parts of the industry saying we're very, very keen on data awareness and we're very, very keen on data sharing, but the next part in the chain isn't doing so, then it falls apart there. By taking advantage of technology, of data literacy in our consumer base and in our employee base, and connecting up across the industry, we could be at a point where we can predict where physical infrastructure is going to start to degrade and where investment comes in earlier to that. So we're no longer responding to problems out in the physical infrastructure, we're predicting them and we're getting ahead of them in investment, in business cases, in spend. That's also happening in product development, in service development, and ultimately, for me and you and everybody sitting in our homes, we see a benefit. We see reduced performance issues. We see better predictive pricing, we have a better idea of what's coming, and regulation can respond more in a more agile fashion towards that. We saw in the financial services industry during COVID a need to change credit risk regulation to allow
Mm,
individual consumers of credit to be able to have more time. You know, if they've had difficulty during COVID with regards to their financial needs, and there is no difference to that in the energy market. By understanding what's happening there consistently across all different parts of the chain, we can share and we can make it better for all of us. And ultimately, as I said, me and you sitting in our homes taking energy from the grid.
I think it's a very good point, Anthony, because everything's changing. I mean, I mentioned it, with technology comes optimism. And I think I do believe that this whole modeling or remodeling of the energy system is going to be absolutely crucial. You know, the predictive side of things, you know, predictive analytics is going to be absolutely, I completely agree with you on this. I couldn't agree with you more actually on that particular topic. So, Xanthe, thank you very much for joining me. It was a brilliant presentation. I really, really enjoyed it. It really resonated with me as well. So Expleo are a senior innovation partner to Future Energy Systems. And as Xanthe said, go and see them on their VR booth as well. It's available at the moment. So do please download some of their wonderful material. And if you want to keep in touch with Xanthe, please also message her or connect with her on LinkedIn. Well, Xanthe, thank you very much for
Please
joining me.
do. Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Future Energy Systems.
Thank you very much. Fantastic presentation. Really, really relevant topics that I think we're all talking about, even sort of in our homes, in our households, about how we can make energy cheaper. I couldn't believe actually what Xanthe mentioned about the energy suppliers. I think she said that they went up from, was it 15 to 73 in 5 years? And that's incredible. And obviously some of them are not around, but I think it changed how everyone worked and how energy was perceived and sort of consumed by everyone as well. So fantastic, fantastic words. And we are now move on to our networking break for about 15 minutes. And then we're back at 10:55 with a brilliant panel, actually. I talked about it with Xanthe now about people and process. So join me in 15 minutes.